Yes, this video has 4 races in one. Not a lot really happened in Germany, so I'll give you a quick rundown. In practice, I got full on mounted by Kieran. Zesty Junior team coming soon. Sergi flew over the pit wall. I was knocked out of Q1 and my car decided to spend Q2 in the garage wall. Oh, and this is what I get for not blurting out incoherent nonsense when I haven't got a script.
So Max Lister can't speak, nice.
I mean, he doesn't have a brake, he doesn't have a mic.
Does he have a life?
No. Anyway, I started 14th, drove around for 24 laps until, oh my god, and finished in what's probably the most frustrating position there is in F1, P11. So I suppose this video's really 3-ish races in one. Anyway, with Germany out of the way, let's move on to Britain. Whoa, hang on a minute, I wasn't even there for that race. Okay, so this is actually 2-ish races in one video. On to Hungary then, and already things are going off to a great start.
Who is that bad to take out that brake marker board?
There wasn't only confusion out on track though.
How'd you restart warm-up? How'd you do it?
It doesn't look okay
Do
at all.
it,
Sam Lambert.
How'd you restart warm-up?
Here we are then, 13th on the grid. Always get a pretty even run down to turn 1, but I'm able to gain a couple of positions by going round the outside, avoiding the scrap for position on the inside of the corner. Next lap then, and Evans going down the inside. I try and hold it round the outside, but there's a bit of lag on my end which stops all hope of that. The same move happens again 5 laps later, this time with Matthew Clip. Later on in the lap though, Evan runs over the curb, which allows us to regain P12. A couple of laps later now, and this time it's Scott's turn to throw it up the inside of T1. Lap 12 now, and coming around the penultimate corner, I just completely lose the rear. This is actually the only track so far where rear tyre wear has had any considerable factor. A lap later I pit onto Super Softs, emerging P13. Many laps later, following Nick, I get a huge screen freeze, and when I return, Nick has transformed into Daniel Brantham. But that's not all, because a few corners later I get another screen freeze that puts me about 2 seconds even further back. Start lap 26 now and have Mac and Sam bearing down on me. Mac tries to move down the inside, but for the first time this race I get a decent exit which allows the battle to continue. This time though, as we approach turn 2, Sam decides to throw it down the inside. Now I've got about 0.1 seconds to make a decision here. I can either A, ignore Sam, giving Mac enough room around the outside, B, ignore Mac, giving Sam enough room to go down the inside, or C, ignore myself, take a completely neutral line hoping this sphincter tightening situation just sorts itself out.
Oh, fuck.
Fucking.
Turns out it was actually D. Somehow make contact with both of them and yeet Sam into oblivion. Towards the end of the race I had to let Kieran pass, but now we're behind him, let's see how hard it is to keep up. And he's gone. Shock horror, lap 46 is actually a car in front of me to battle. However, that's going to be immediately nursed since we have to let Phil through. Later on though, on what I believe is the final lap, I make a move round the outside of T1, giving me the inside line as we run down to T2, and that moves me up into a staggering P13, which is where I finish, with 9 litres of fuel. Right then, that was Hungary. Now onto my favourite track, Spa. This time I did actually make it into Q2, so I decided to go out on softs rather than super softs for the start of the race. However, looking at how low down I was on the softs, I opted against that strategy and went on super softs anyway, which gave me 4th on the grid. Here we are then, it's lights out. I get a fairly poor start compared to the top 3. I have to take the outside line through the hairpin, which gives Matthew the opportunity to overtake me down the inside. I've got worse acceleration than him as we drag race down the hill to Eau Rouge. That forces me to back out of any move. However, the slipstream has brought me back into the fight, as well as Brandon just behind us who's looking for a gap down the inside. Unfortunately for him, at the same time I pull to the inside to overtake Clip. Matthew then has the inside line and there's no change in position. Start of lap 2 now, Brandon goes down the inside at T1, bit of contact on exit and he isn't happy about that. Now at this point I'm pretty much in the same situation as Monaco, where Brandon is just ahead on harder tyres, and I have to try and make my softer tyres last as long as possible so I don't miss out on what could be my best result of the season. Let's just see if I can last more than 5 laps with this wheel. And I have! Unfortunately, Noah's about to trounce me for position, however I've still got DRS from Matthew ahead, so I'm not completely helpless.
I predict a crash at the com, like this lap, like in 5 seconds.
Alright, let's put that to the test then, shall we? So there we go, I'll put up a timer, there you go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh god, that's not going well.
Oh my god.
Well, he did predict it.
A couple of corners later though, and I somehow take the worst possible line and understeer onto the grass. As I'm desperately trying to get back on track, the rear steps out and have no choice but to drop 4 positions down to 10th. Lap 7 now, and Liam's very excited about having DRS.
Oh, Max!
I make sure to back out of the battle so as not to repeat what happened last lap with Noah. It's pretty much a stalemate for the next couple of laps until Liam loses the rear at turn 1 and I get a pretty decent shot at an overtake.
Max, please do not Eau Rouge me.
Now, at this point I have 2 decisions. I can either A, I have DRS from Liam and that moves me back up into the points. Lap 11 now and I've lost DRS from Mike, that means Liam can make the move down the inside. I back out similar to last time, but I have to defend from Dan Ove who's taken the opportunity as well. Later on in the lap I decided to come into the pits, but there's a tiny lag spike which causes the car to half spin once it returns. Unfortunately with the nature of this track, if you're not in slipstream you can't really gain on cars ahead who are, so the only time I'm gaining positions is when people pit. And because we're in clear air, I'm using so much more fuel than the cars in slipstream, so I'm just at a constant disadvantage for the rest of the race. For the next 5 or so laps I managed to hold P10 until Lally gets close enough for a move and demotes us out of the points. Lap 25 though and Dan Ove emerges from the pits, allowing us to size up a move back into the points. It's going to be short-lived though, as Prantham gets a great run later in the lap and retakes the position, but he squeezes us right off the track. Okay, so at this point there's 5 laps left and my front left is dead. I can pit now and lose any hope of keeping P11 since I'll be on my own in clear air, or I can try and defend on what will be, by the end of the race, utterly expired tyres. Lap 28 then, and the inevitable happens. At this point, tyre wear is too bad to put up a fight, and I'm just going to bring the car home. There's a huge gap to Evan behind, but P12 is where I'd finish whether I pitted or not. So there we are then, 4-ish sort of races in one video. Next up is Turkey, which will be up as soon as I can get it done. Also, it's a track I haven't driven since like F1 2011, so thanks for watching and I'll see you then.